Welcome to the Intermediate Acrylic Painting class. Today we will be touching on shade, form, space with our pencil and paper. Okay, so these are the supplies you will need for the first exercise. If you don't have a ruler or a cup around, you could do a draftman exercise, which you would just use a straight edge to draw out your lines, a few of your lines, and then in the middle of the lines you would just kind of practice making a perfect circle. And then once you feel comfortable, you can move to just making a bigger circle for our first exercise. Okay. Next step, draw out 8 boxes, 1 inch each box, or something similar to this display. On one, you want to color in the first block. One, you can number them on the top here. Number 1 should be your hardest pressure with the pencil, your supply of the pencil. Use the pencil to color in as dark as you possibly can in block number 1. Okay, and this is all about pressure with your tool, the sensitivity of the pressure as we move forward down to the next square. You just lighten up a little bit so you can start to see the value of the pressure of the pencil, if that makes sense. So it'll be number 1 will be your darkest, number 2 will lighten up, 3 will be lighter, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Just keep going lighter. And how you go lighter is just lighten up off the pressure that you use when you're using a pencil. Just lighten on the pressure as you color in the square. Now, number 4, I want to show you another approach. Instead of coloring in the square one way to get the value, you could cross hatch as well, just to fill in that area. And just make sure that each square is getting lighter as you go down, as you get to the next number. Okay, so this exercise 1 through 8, 1 inch boxes, number 1 being the darkest value or shade with your pencil, and number 8 will either be completely white or very light of a scribble in there just to give it a little bit of value or shade. Once you complete that top portion, just to get your sensitivity with your tool, which is your pencil, we want to start with form, the word form. So that's why we drew this circle, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay. Once again, you could use a cup, the bottom of a cup, or anything round that you see around your house. If not, you could definitely do the draftmanship exercises where you're just constantly free flowing a circle, make it big enough so you could render it, because that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so how we start rendering, I want you to identify a light source within this circle. It could be here, it could be here, anywhere you want it. But that light source is going to be the lightest part of this circle. Okay, so once you identify the light source, mine is going to be here. Okay, I'll put an L for light. And so if that's the light source and it's hitting this circle, which is going to turn into a sphere based on the light and how we identify the dark, which if this is the light, then the opposite side should be the dark side, which is the shadow. So a S here. Okay, so light, dark. So what we're going to do is shade, just like we did here. We're going to use this number 1 square as the darkest, which will be the shadow, to color in a portion of it using, now we're talking about contour shading, which kind of mimics the circle already. So we start real dark and we can just start coming up lightly. It's all about pressure to kind of create a form based on a two-dimensional circle. Oops. This is just a quick exercise just to get you thinking about light and dark, value, shape, shade, and form. Okay, so eventually you should start to get something similar to this here, where you're shading, you're putting a lot of pressure on the dark area and you're starting to light up. Okay, and you want to follow the contour of the actual circle itself and start to render it. See, this is your light source, shadow, then cast shadow here. The cast shadow is when the sphere is on a surface or platform and the light source interacts with the sphere, and the shadow of the sphere creates a cast shadow on the platform that it's on. That's a quick exercise, just understanding tone, value, shade, form with your pencil, which can be considered white and black. Next step. This is the supplies you will need for the next step, which is our project. What we're going to do is take black and white, which you should have in your kit, and you need a brush, you need some water, and everything that you have there. And what we will be doing is mimicking what we did on paper onto your canvas paper here. So 8 squares across and then a sphere on your canvas paper. Okay, so we will be using a flat brush here to paint in these squares that you have drawn on your canvas paper. We're going to start with pure black, no mixing or anything, pure black. Take your time, and this paint comes off fairly easy with soap and water, but just take your time opening the containers that it has. And what you want to do is just take your time and fill in the square as neatly as you possibly can. Okay, and then you just let this dry here. Your excess you could put onto your plate. Okay. And then for number 2, the next square, what you want to do is, make sure you have some water and dip your brush into water and then dab it onto this plate here. And then you're going to take some of your white and mix it with the black. And then you should get the next lighter value that you need. Don't put too much white in there, but you kind of want to put enough white to make it a lighter value, or a gray, darker gray than a black. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want to identify the different values or shades of gray that you get when you mix white and black together. And you can mix the paint on the canvas paper if need be to get the result that you want. If you go outside the line, that's fine. It's all about the different shades and values. Just to understand how much the ratio of white and black you should mix to get a lesser tone or a darker tone or lighter tone versus a darker tone. You continue this all the way down till you complete all your squares, and it should be similar to the top here. Once you finish 1 through 8 with your different values and shades of gray using black and white paint, I want you to either use a cup for your circle, or you could freehand it, which I'm going to do here just to show you. Freehanding is just all about confidence. It's all about practice and what you're familiar with to create a circle. That's all. So you create a circle. Okay. Once you create the circle, the next step is to identify the light source. Okay. Once you identify the light source, you know where your shadow is going to be. Once you know where your shadow is going to be, you know where your cast shadow is going to be, so it won't be floating. So the cast shadow grounds it. Okay, so now I want you to go back to your scale from 1 to 8, and I want you to pick number 1 to be your cast shadow, and also the shadow on the circle. You can even note it here so you know. Pure black for the cast. Okay, so I just drew that to show you. Now I'm going to take some black paint with my filbert brush, flat brush. Now when you're using acrylic, you can add water to water it down so you could push it on the canvas paper a little better. If not, you could apply it thick, but it's just, it takes a little while, it takes a little more effort to push it around on the paper when it's thicker. Okay, and then just follow me here. Come around this contour of the circle. Once you note the black, similar to this, you could start adding a little white to it, just a little bit. If it gets too light, you will have to add more black, just a little bit, to blend it in. And we're going along the contour of this circle. This is called the contour, the edge of the circle here. And there's no, you just kind of work it in, and it's all about the ratio of white and black and how you apply it to the paper now. Sort of like the pressure of getting light and dark with your pencils. Similar concept. Kind of push it around a little bit, let it mix, but also let it blend. Okay? And you should get something similar to the top example. Okay, that's what we're aiming for. So we're identifying the light, the cast shadow, the shadow here, and we're filling in this circle to make it a form based on the light and dark. Okay, remember, it doesn't take that much paint to fill in these areas. I'm going to do this square here to show you how little it takes. Little dab, put on your plate. Since I'm doing number 3, it won't be pure black, so I'm mixing the white with it, and that's still too dark. You don't really want to put black into the white paint like I'm doing here. It would be more cleaner if you wash your brush off and then apply. But for this demonstration, it's a little easier this way, the way I'm doing it. Dab, dab. Try to stay in the lines as much as you possibly can. And if the value isn't light enough, you could always add white to it. Add some white, lighten it up. You could mix the paint onto the paper. Something like that, but a little paint. You don't have to dab your whole brush into the paint, but just kind of take your time, get enough on there, dab it on your plate, and you should be good. Once again, light, dark. This is the cast shadow, this is the shadow, and all you're doing is blending along the contour. Blending along the contour, cast shadow, identifying the light. 1 through 8, darkest to lightest. Light and dark, different value, form. Those are all terms that we're utilizing to create this project, or to fulfill this exercise. Once again, light and dark, black and white. You got your flat brush. Once again, just take it easy on how you apply the paint and how you dip your brush into the paint. And be cautious of how you open the containers that contain the paint in them. Yes, and if you have any questions, I will be posting a Zoom link for me to answer any of your questions. But this is the first exercise, building up your skill level and approaching acrylic painting. Thank you for your time.